everyone and welcome. It's Karen here, and today we're going to be talking about traveling with our pastels. More specifically, we're going to be talking about flying with our pastels. Now, I know many of you are planning on going to the IAPS Pastel Convention, or maybe you're just going to travel and want to take some pastels and some supplies with you, and you're wondering, can I fly with these things, and how do I get them packaged so that they will arrive in one piece? So in this video today, I want to share some tips that will help you get to your destination safely and with all your pastels. So the first thing I want to do is clarify something that's been going around, and that is it okay that I take my pastels with me on the plane in my carry-on or even in my checked baggage? There has been some countries that have banned powdered or dusty substances. So there was concern that maybe we couldn't take our pastels on a plane, and I just want to assure you that it is perfectly fine and acceptable and okay to take your pastels with you in your carry-on luggage as well as your checked baggage. IAPS has checked with our TSA, and they have written back and assured us that it is fine to fly with pastels. Now, one thing you might want to do is label your box, your pastel box. And there are many ways you can label your box, and I'm going to show photos of the labels that I use. So basically you just want to say they're artist chalk, they're non-toxic, that kind of thing, so that they're not alarmed that it's something flammable or something they need to be concerned about. So no worries, the pastels can come with you, and that's the first step. Second question that I get asked a lot is, how do I best take my pastels with me on a plane? Should I put them in my carry-on bag, or should I put them in my checked luggage? I have done it both ways and been successful. However, it is highly recommended that you take them in your checked, or excuse me, I knew I was going to do that. You want to take them in your carry-on luggage. You want the pastels with you. And the reason why, a couple reasons. Number one, you want to make sure your pastels get to your destination. So if your luggage is delayed or lost and you've got your art supplies in your checked bags, you won't have them, and there's nothing worse than getting to a workshop and not having your supplies. I would much rather have my pastels than my clothes, and I know a lot of you are probably thinking the same thing. So make sure they're in your checked bag, and why do I do that? You want them in your carry-on bag. And the other reason is you want to be in control of your pastel box because of the way it's handled. You've probably seen videos or seen for yourself how sometimes our baggage is thrown around by the carriers when you check your bags. So you want to make sure that you aren't going to throw your bag around. Although I have dropped my bag from an overhead compartment, and they have been perfectly fine, but they've been well protected. So you want to be in control. Another thing is your checked bag can also be scanned, will be scanned, and can be pulled for inspection. So if that happens, you want to be sure that you're there so that it's closed up properly so you don't have a mess. So always put them in your carry-on luggage, your pastels. So the next question is, okay, I'm going to take my pastels with me in my carry-on, which means I'm going to go through security. And so what can I expect when I go through security and I have pastels with me? Based upon my experience, and probably in the last several years I've had, I don't know, I've lost track of how many flights, but I would say my bag is pulled for further inspection maybe half of the time. Really not all the time. So maybe half the time. So it's a gamble. I know some artists like to take their pastel box out of their carry-on and put it in a bin, much like a laptop, just to expedite the process. I don't do that just because it's one extra step I don't want to have to worry about, and it's 50-50 that my bag's going to be pulled for inspection, so I'm going to take that chance, but that's going to be your choice. But here's my most important advice. If you leave this video today with no other advice, it is this: allow extra time in your schedule to go through security and get to your gate. So I might be a little bit paranoid, but I allow an hour extra besides the time that they ask you to be at your gate. So an hour extra. I would much rather go through security, get to my gate, have plenty of extra time to do some good people watching, or maybe sketch, maybe read, rather than standing in that security line stressing because I cut it too close. So allowing extra time is going to be your best friend. So now you're going to go through security, and let's just say your bag is pulled for further inspection. What do you do? What can you expect? Number one, a piece of advice: you are not to touch your suitcase, your bag, or your pastel box. So when the agent is going through your things, you're not allowed to physically touch things. And I know it's kind of an instinct. You want to help them open your box so they do it the right way. You can verbalize how to open the box to help them, but you can't touch, and I've made that mistake, so that's why I tell you that. You're going to find some agents are really helpful, and you'll have some great conversations about pastels, and some are very businesslike, and they don't want to talk. So take your cue, but the main thing is don't touch. But if you need to help them because they're opening the box upside down, you can give them a little bit of help. Now here's another very important, they may swab your box just to make sure there's no residue. And the reason why pastels are often flagged is because they tend to look like bullets, ammunition, ballistics of some sort. It raises a red flag. But I'm going to just throw this in there. The last 2 times my bag was pulled for inspection, it was not because of the pastels. They didn't care about the pastels. It was a stack of books, which evidently was too dense. And one time it was a snack, which should have been in a bin. Anyways, so don't stress over it. The process is not a big deal. As long as you have that extra time built in, it's not a stressful thing at all. But I'm going to add one more piece of advice. When you're finished with security, they've put your stuff back together, they give you back your bag, take a few minutes to go over to that spot where you can kind of put your shoes on and make sure you haven't forgotten anything, because I've done that. Re-inspect your box. Make sure that it has been closed properly, because I have had one instance where they didn't close it properly. I was in a rush, didn't pay attention, and I had some pastels crushed. So always re-inspect the box, make sure everything is in order before you move on. And that's why you want to build in that extra time, because that's one more thing that you want to do. Alright, so that's it. We've gone through security. It's no big deal. We're on our way. I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about how we should pack our pastels. What kind of box should we use? What do we do to make sure that they get there safely? Now, any kind of box is going to work. I have brought my pastels in an expensive Heilmann box, and I brought them in the manufacturer's box. I'm going to talk about each case, each scenario. The best scenario is to have a nice solid box. These nice wooden ones by Heilmann. Dakota makes one. There are other manufacturers that make nice boxes. In fact, I've seen many artists make their own wooden boxes lined with memory foam so that the pastels are secure and they don't move around. That's the main thing. So that's the best way to go. However, a lot of us don't want one of these boxes, can't afford it, don't want to buy it. We have our manufacturer's box that the pastels came in. Can we take those? You certainly can. And here's another thing. If you're going to the pastel convention, chances are you're going to come home with more pastels than you went with, because the candy store is very, very enticing. So you can put those manufacturer boxes in your carry-on. That's the safest bet. I've taken them in the check bag as well. But here's the thing. It needs to pass the shake test. So what's the shake test? I have a box of miscellaneous pastels in this. This is a Terry Ludwig box. I'm going to shake it. I hear them move around. If they move around, if I can hear them, that means there's probably a good chance they're going to break. So what I do is I make sure that besides the foam that comes in the box, I line it with extra, either foam or paper toweling. So this really needs another layer of paper towel. And then what I do next is I close the lid, take some artist tape, and secure all sides. The reason why I use artist tape is because if your box is inspected, you've got to open it, or they have to open it, and this will retape and open easily. Then I take some rubber bands and I just wrap it so that when I shake, I don't hear anything rattle around. So it passes the shake test. Then what I do is I wrap it in some bubble wrap, put it in a plastic baggie just for extra security, and in my check bag it goes. Now, this came with something I ordered. I don't know, I love this bag. But you could use priority mail, bubble wrap, bubble envelopes would work great. So this is just a little extra precaution, but that box passed the shake test, so I feel confident about taking it with me. A couple other things to talk about. This is not a video on packing supplies. I'm going to do another video on that, what you should bring. But I do want to address the one other thing that's really important is how do you carry your paper and your finished paintings. And so there are lots of ways you can do this. You can make your own little envelope with foam core or gator foam and glassine paper. Tracing paper pads are a really great way to do, very easy. But my preferred way of carrying paper and finished paintings are these Art Profolio books by Itoya. And what I like about them is they're basically little portfolio books with plastic insert pages. I load this with paper before a trip, and then when I finish a painting, I put the painting right inside. So here's one with a finished painting, and then I have a nice booklet when I come home from my trip of finished paintings. This goes in my carry-on bag always so that I always know where it is. I don't lose my paper or my paintings. The question I get often asked is, will residue of pastel come out on the plastic? And yes, a little bit does, but it is that loose dust that really doesn't affect your painting anyways. One other thing before I let you go. When you're packing your carry-on, make sure there's no liquid or sharp objects. Those need to go in your check bag. And then I think if you follow these little tips, you're going to get there safely, you're going to have a great time, and if you're at IAPS, be sure to say hello.